Hello and welcome to another edition of Fides Podcast. My name is Jerry Serino and I'm your host, and I'm here with talent on loan from Rush. So my show is a conservative pro-life podcast that has been what I have been doing and focusing on, and will always continue to be conservative and certainly pro-life. One of the things that I'm seeing and realizing, and what I want to focus on more and more, is really the re-education or education of our college students and their parents. I want to really focus on the fact that our college age students, of which I have some, and many of you have, are being indoctrinated with lies, with they're being manipulated, falsehoods, and unfortunately, it's very, very sad, because then they continue on in their life and pass that information or knowledge or lack of knowledge down to their children. And it is a horrible, horrible thing. I'm experiencing it firsthand, and it is really a terrible thing. And so I always want to try focusing my show on the idea of educating those that are being lied to every single day. And there is probably no bigger liar in this country than Planned Parenthood as an organization. And those that support Planned Parenthood have been lying to our young people, to all of us, forever and ever and ever. And consequently, policy is made based upon those lies, very sadly. My guest today is Mayra Rodriguez. She is basically a whistleblower in a sense, or ultimately she's a global pro-life speaker and activist. She has experience within Planned Parenthood, and thankfully she is here. She has accepted the truth, and she is here to share that truth with us as parents, as listeners, and if you're a student, here is the truth. So, Mayra, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. And oh my God, you nailed it. They're liars, and even you just said right now in the supporters, but even the people that are supporting them, sometimes they don't know they're lying to us, right?
Hmm.
And that's what happened to me. That's part of my story.
Yeah, and that's exactly the case. I have done talks on college campuses, and certainly you can see, the how other people who give talks on college campuses, what they experience. I, in a way, feel bad for these college students, because while they're adults, they're young, they're just starting off in life, they're influenced by the media, by social media, by their professors, sadly, maybe their parents, and they don't know what they don't know. They've been lied to forever. And I believe a lot of them, if they haven't overcome those lies, they end up defending those lies because they don't want to admit that they were wrong, or that they were lied to by people that they trusted and trust. So I feel really, really bad for these students. And I certainly know that it's also very difficult for conservative students, because that's who my kids are, in experiencing what they do on college campuses. So let's start with your background. Let's start with your story, sort of at the beginning, before you sort of had your conversion and saw the truth. Let's start from the beginning.
Well, I came from Mexico City. I moved to this beautiful country when I was only 18 years of age, right? And a few years after that, I attended college, community college, a few courses here and there on administration. And then I landed on the doors of Planned Parenthood. I had a medical lab technician diploma. My friend worked there. She said they like to help women, right? They want
Hmm.
bilingual people. And I'm like, what's wrong with that, right? It's a medical field. I'm passionate about the medical field. I want to help women. I want to help my people. So I took a job with Planned Parenthood. Now I'm going to tell you something. When they interviewed me that first time, they said, so what do you think about abortion? And I quickly said, well, I wouldn't have one. Hispanic, Catholic, grew up in a Catholic home. I wouldn't have one. But if someone else, I replied like every other Christian that we encounter on the street today. It's not my problem. It's their body. It's their choice, right? It's
Hmm.
between them and God. That's how I responded. The HR lady loved that answer, right? And move on to hire me. Now I quickly said, but I would not be doing abortions, right? She's like, no, no, no. You were hired for the other side. So with that, I started working on the other side that Planned Parenthood used to have. They used to have two different centers, right? And this is before Biden, just a few years ago. They will have to have two different centers if they wanted that Title X money. They will have to have the non-abortion facilities that will just preventive care, right? And the abortion facilities. And knowing that my people needed liberation from the kitchen, right? Like these Hispanic women that needed to be liberated because, oh my God, they're oppressed at home, just having children, right? That's what I'm being told. So then I go into the Hispanic communities, I go into Hispanic kids' schools and tell them, I'm one of those people that came in to groom the kids, right? To tell them that they were not just in this world to give birth to children, that they could hide abortions from their parents, they could hide abortions from their husbands. They don't have to tell anyone they're doing this, right? And all you're doing this with a flag of women's rights, of women's choice, of this is better for the woman. And you're gonna call me naive or ignorant, and you were right. Because I believed it. I believed that that 16-year-old was going to be better if I sent her for an abortion. I believed that that woman with 3 children was going to be better because probably her husband's abusing her, right?
Yeah.
And for
So
many years,
let
yeah,
me, if I can stop you right there, just,
yeah.
and I want you to continue along this, but one thing that is a thought that spurs to me is, so where obviously you were influenced once you worked there, I'm sure, but did you have other influences um, telling you these things about Planned Parenthood, or about, hey, you need to be able to get an abortion if you want to succeed in life and so on? What other influences were there?
Yeah, of course. I mean, they groom you. They literally groom you as an employee. When you get trained to deliver pregnancy test results, they give you a training. Okay. I mean, delivering pregnancy test results is easy. You're pregnant, right? But no, they do a specific training to deliver pregnancy test results that you don't see it, that it's aimed towards pushing women to choose abortion. Because, for example, I remember role playing during those training sessions, right? And it was like, you're going to pretend to be the employee and I'm going to pretend to be the 16-year-old girl, right? And then the 16-year-old girl comes in like, oh my God, you're pregnant. So right away, you are telling that 16-year-old that being pregnant, it's a bad thing for her, right? It's a negative thing. And it's the first thought you're going to put into her head. I remember them saying, don't ever walk into a room happy of telling someone that she's pregnant because you don't know if this is a happy moment for her. So that will be judgmental, right? Don't ever assume she wants to continue the pregnancy. All those things are grooming you, right? When you go like Hispanic women don't take care of their bodies, they take care of their family first. We have to tell them they have to take care of their bodies, right? Same thing, right? They're grooming you. So, and then they go like, you were in Mexico, the suffering of women over there when they get raped and there's no access to abortions, things like that, right? I did grow up in a hospital setting in Mexico City. My mother was a social worker, right? But ask me if I ever sat down with my mother and said, hey, mom, do you have any women in prison because they were having illegal abortions done at home? Never asked her, right? I assumed that what they were telling me is true. And all these women in Latin America have been in prison for not having something that the American people are able to have, right? So little by little, they're grooming you. And yes, of course, at home, a Catholic home, my mother's like, but they said you're doing abortions. And here I go. You're going to love this part because I answered like Planned Parenthood had done it for many years. I don't do abortions where I'm at. I help women. I mean, we provide birth control. We provide woman exams. We see women from cancer. You have heard them say that, right? And I used to say that. I repeat that speech that they had, and I had memorized it because they trained me to memorize the speech as a Title X director. When you encounter this, you tell people, no, we do all these services. This is what we do. That's the majority of our services. Abortion is 3%, right? They give you the speech to tell people that. And I bought it and I believed it. And now you're wondering, so when did Mayra change, right? Here
Yeah,
I am grooming.
absolutely.
I mean, just so you know, I went to Congress in 2017 with Cecile Richards, the Planned Parenthood PPFA CEO, to advocate for Planned Parenthood not to lose their Title X money. They took me, so I can speak the stories of all these women that had benefit from Title X at their centers, right? That's how my passion was for them. Then I get the Employee of the Year award. I'm named the director of the biggest abortion facility in the state of Arizona. I'm 16 years working for them, devoted, dedicated, passionate about our movement, right? Passionate about women's rights. Here's Mayra with her her daughter in the stroller at the Women's March, right? That was me, right? Feminists, like women are worth, women need this, right? Like all the crazies you see now in the street, right?
Yeah.
And then I become the director of the abortion facility. And it's very easy to promote abortion when you don't see abortion. It's very easy because I was told abortion safe. So I told women that abortion safe. I mean, come on, we've been doing since 1973 legally. Abortion safe, right? Abortion safer than carrying a baby to full term, right? Mm-hmm. Because all this list of consequences or side effects or sickness that you can have during a pregnancy, well, they're not happening if you're having an abortion, right? And all those things that I told women, well, guess what? That's not what I saw when I became the director. That's not what was happening.
So how many years was it between starting there and becoming the director of a particular facility that does abortions?
16 years.
So, okay. So you did say that. Okay. So 16 years you're working there, you're doing things other than abortion, you're living in that world, you're going to marches, going to Washington, you're obviously a supporter. How did your family, you said your mom had questioned it early on. I mean, how did they take things over those 16 years?
Well, my poor mother believed me. She believed my lies too, because I told her I have nothing to do with abortion. Because guess what? In my head, and that's what I try to tell people, the rapist knows that he's doing something bad. He's raping women, he's raping children, whatever wrong he's doing, he knows he's wrong, but he continues to do it anyway, knowing he's wrong. The serial killer knows he's killing and it's wrong. The abortion worker, the abortion industry, the employees inside the abortion industry, they're doing the same thing without understanding that it's wrong, right? Because for many years, I thought I was doing something right by sending women to literally the butcher, right? I thought I was doing something productive for society, something for women's rights, right? Without understanding that what I was doing was wrong until I get to see abortion, right? Yeah. My mother believed me that I had nothing to do with abortion because I told her that, because in my head was like, well, I gave them their options. If they chose abortion and went down to the abortion facility, that was not my fault. I gave them their options. Did I? No, because I concentrated on selling the abortion idea and then really quickly told her, but if you don't want to do this, here's a list where you can go to continue pregnancy. Here's a list of adoption facilities that will help your organizations. Okay, goodbye, right? But if they wanted, the first thing we will offer was abortion and go over all the abortion details and how good it was going to be for her. And then just briefly, because law required it, tell them they had other two options, right? But just because law required it. If you ask a former abortion worker from any other liberal state, I'm in Arizona, up until 2 years ago, we were more conservative, right? But if you ask anyone in a state that it's liberal, you will know that they don't even have to offer the other two options. They only have to offer the abortion for that woman. So I did that, right? And my mother believed me that I had nothing to do. So now I jump in, I'm the abortion director, and my mother's like, but now you're doing abortions. And now it's another excuse, Mom, I need to do this. It's my job. I mean, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I mean, look at it. Not only did I get empowered as a woman, because it's what they say they do, right? Empower women. But as an immigrant, here I am living the American dream that immigrants only dream of, right? When they come to this country, doing something like, can you imagine I flash in my cards of Planned Parenthood director? Can you imagine that? I mean, you feel powerful, right? Because they make you feel powerful. So you continue to fight for them. And I think that's what happens to most women that seek abortion. The abortion industry tell them look at those Hollywood actors. Thanks to that abortion, I won a Grammy. Thanks to that abortion, I did my movie, right? It's telling them this is empowerment, right? This will make you powerful. Having abortion makes you powerful, and selling abortions, promoting abortion, even more powerful. But again, then I enter the abortion facility director and I start seeing what all the pro-lifers have been saying, and that I have been fighting with them, saying like, you're lying, you're lying, you're lying, you're lying, you're lying, right? That's not true. That's not what happens. That's not true. But it was true. Women get hurt. I've reported women getting perforated daily, not once a month, not the 28% of patients that they like to say on their statistics. Daily, a woman left that center perforated. And the worst part is the abortions didn't even notice they perforated it. I've reported a statutory rape gone unreported. That means minors impregnated by adults and not report done to the police like it's supposed to. I reported falsifying a patient chart, meaning the abortionist will say he had performed the abortion without any complications, no problem, all good, when the reality was different. I reported all this negligence, all this mistreatment of women, all this lying on patient charts. But you know what really got to me? I'm not gonna lie to you and say that I didn't know that babies go dismembered in a red bag in a trash bin. I knew that. Of course, I have heard that. But when I saw it, now that's different. When you hear the abortionist referring to a baby head as trash, that's different. It was a 14-week baby. They couldn't find the head anywhere. He had performed the abortion. And I don't know if I'm allowed to do this with your audience, but
Sure.
any abortion after 12.5 weeks happens through dismemberment of these babies inside the womb live. They're alive. And we know by science that after 9 weeks, all their nerve system has developed, therefore they feel pain. The abortionist goes in and rips every baby part, like the legs, the torso, the head, the arms. Then they put it in a metal bin and take it to a town, literally like a puzzle piece, right? Make sure that you have 2 legs, 2 arms, a torso, and a head. In this scenario, they were missing the head, but he had already inserted an IUD device. So he was refusing to look again for the head inside the little mother. And I said little mother because she was a 19-year-old girl. And the assistant, just a medical assistant, okay? Not a nurse, not a licensed provider, but just an MA, knew the severity. She understood the damage. She understood what would happen to that 19-year-old girl if she walked out of that center with a baby head inside. The licensed provider didn't care. She went into my office and Mayra, I've already asked him. I told him it's incomplete. He's not listening. I go to the back. We argue. I told him we can find the baby head. He says, just with a cold face, like, don't bother me for a head. Go look for it in the trash. Like it's just a head. I'm sure you'll find one in the trash.
Yeah.
You know, like it wasn't a big deal, right? But that girl could have died of septicemia because the moment she would retain that tissue, it became aseptic. And that will kill her very, very quickly, especially having an IUD. See, a medical assistant understood. Now, why do I mention this? Just so people understand that sometimes, I'm not saying all of them, okay? But sometimes, like I just told you, people inside there, they're doing good things, right? They don't understand that it's something wrong. They really think they're helping women. They're caring for women, some of them, not all of them. I can tell you from my experience that abortionists don't care about women. They don't care about women. To them, it's a business. To them, that woman was a 16-weeker that he has to add to his list because the way they get paid is by gestational sizing. And this is how you will understand why we have this culture pushing higher and higher gestational sizing, because they get paid of how many abortions they did under 9 weeks, how many abortions under 12, how many 13-weekers, 14-weekers, 15-weekers, and so on. And the higher it goes, the better they get paid.
Yeah. So let's go through the list real quick of the lies. So, it's again, this to my beginning, you have all people, but specifically young people, high school and college age people, men and women, who are constantly being told it's a clump of cells. So what are we arguing about here? It's a clump of cells. It can't feel pain. It's not living. They're told, as you said, that abortion is safer than having a pregnancy. in going through all everything involved in a pregnancy. They're told it's, in general, the procedure itself is safe. There's no problems, there's no concerns, no issues. And all of that is not only, certainly if some people, like maybe yourself, repeats that to people, you're saying it because that's what you're told, and young college students are told that, so they go about believing it. But obviously there's plenty of people that know it's not true. None of what you just talked about is true, and they know it, and they knowingly go out there and say things that they know to be false in order to convince people. And you have these poor young people who believe something passionately, believe, like you said, they're doing good, they're helping women, when they're outright being lied to. So I think that I just want to put that out there for all of you young people and parents who, this is what your children, your college students and high school students even, are facing every single day. They are being lied to. You're being lied to. And Mayra has the truth here. That's what she has. So, okay, I didn't mean to interrupt you, because I think that that's so
No, it's
important.
good.
Thank you for outlining all that. Okay, so you're living in this, and you're seeing now the perforations, you're seeing the behavior, you're seeing these things happen. How long does it take for you to change your mind?
Well, remember I told you I had worked for them for 16 years. Then
Yeah,
I became the director. You won't believe I only lasted 10 months as the director of the
yeah,
abortion facility. That's it. Because that's what I started raising my voice. My coworkers were, don't do that. Anyone who speaks against the abortion gets fired. They're gone. Don't do that. You will not be able, listen to this. You will not be able to get another job if you close your doors with Planned Parenthood. That is something I remember hearing through all my 17 years of employment. If you end up in the wrong side of Planned Parenthood, you will never be able to get another job in the medical field, because they will make sure of that. Like they're so powerful that there's nothing you can do about it. It reminded me of that movie of Matilda, that it's like, I'm big and you're strong and there's nothing you can do about it, right?
yeah,
So I started raising my voice, I started raising my concerns. I told my supervisor. My supervisor obviously just gave me the pat in the back. You're doing a great job, keep doing it, don't worry about it, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. But nothing was happening, right? Then the case with the baby had happened. I left the building that day. I called the supervisor and said, that's it. If you either do something about it or I will. Now, keep in mind, right now, my head is still thinking that this is just an issue isolated to Planned Parenthood, Arizona, right? Because that's it, right? So if I reach out to the Planned Parenthood Federation, someone will do something about it, right? Because they care for women. And
right,
all I have to do is it's open their eyes, right? Like, this is must be, I mean, I'm understanding now the damage of abortion. I see those women getting hurt. I see those women leaving the facility destroyed. I'm seeing those babies all broke apart. But I think you just said it perfectly before. You don't want to admit you have been wrong for so many years, right? Like, you're like, nah, but abortion's not that ugly, right? I'm just seeing this because I'm here in Arizona. I'm sure it's not that bad anywhere else in the country. But then you realize I tried to warn him, and what they decided to do was fire me instead of doing something about it. Literally, after that 19-year-old abortion, after 19-year-old had her abortion, literally a few days later, I get fired, right? Like, literally, no one. It's like
hmm,
you're not in your office, and then when you show up on Monday, they're like, hey, last Friday, while you were gone, we found narcotics in your desk. You're fired. And you're like, what? I
yeah,
wasn't even there. It's your
right,
office. It was your drawer. It doesn't matter, you know? And I knew that they were setting me up, and I knew that the accusation had to do, remember, you will never be hired somewhere else. Because obviously, that having narcotics in your desk, or without being locked up, or mishandling narcotics, which that's what it's called in the medical field, mishandling narcotics, get you banned from any medical or anything to do with responsibility, right?
hmm,
So I knew that that's what they were doing this. So I left the facility. Um, I was in shock. I was like, oh my God, they actually did it. They got rid of me to protect him. That's what they did.
hmm,
And you won't believe who was out there to help me. I mean, Remember 17 years, those people were my family. I mean, most of the people I hang out with work with me
Hmm.
because I was there for 17 years. It became your second home, or actually my first home. I work over 50 hours a week, Monday through Sunday. So can you imagine, to me, that was it, right? Basically, I only came to my house to sleep, you know?
Hmm.
And and then the moment you decide, they decide to get rid of you and set you as an example so other employees won't speak up, right? Like, this is what happens when you speak up. This is what happens, right? They all turn their back on you. And it was the pro-life people on the sidewalk who helped me through that tough time. You know, they helped me find my lawyer. We took Planned Parenthood to court, uh, doing the only wrongful termination lawsuit against them in their history. No other employee had been able to take them to trial. You know, most of the time they settle with them, you know, and then
Hmm.
they sign NDAs, which is sad, right? I didn't.
Right.
They tried, but we didn't, right? My lawyer was like, nope, she ain't going to sign that. She's going to do this. She has all the time in the world. I will never sign that because I wanted the chance to tell my story. Why? Because I knew that people needed to hear the truth. It wasn't about beating Planned Parenthood in court. I mean, does that feel good? Of course, it feels good, right? Because they're big and I'm small, and there was
Hmm.
nothing I can do about it, but there was something we could do about it, right? So, I mean, part of doing the lawsuit was being able to have a legal backup. So when people go and be like, that's not true, that didn't happen, is that you can have a reference. Yeah, go find it. Maricopa County, Rodriguez versus Planned Parenthood, legal case. You can Google it. Public information, right? You can ask for records. And also, so women understood the damage of abortion. But you know, the main reason for my lawsuit was the voice for the voiceless, right? Because all these babies get killed. You know, one thing as a former abortion worker is that you have to sit one day and realize how many babies you assisted killing. Because it doesn't only mean that when I told my mom I don't do abortions, it means all those women that I convinced that abortion was the best thing for her,
Hmm.
right? All those women that I sent there, right? All those kids in school that I went to give my speech, and then they convinced themselves that abortion was going to be the answer for their problems, right? That's what the lawsuit was about, and that's why I'm a pro-life activist.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing stuff. And here in Ohio, we have. I want to just point this out before we end here, as we're coming to an end. Thank you so much for your great story. I have a number of other questions for you. I don't know that we'll have time to get to it, but I've been scrolling Myra's email at the bottom of the screen. If you're watching, if you're just listening, it's Myra at myrarodriguez.org. If you want to reach out to her and have her as a speaker, or engage with her or recommend her as a speaker, because obviously, what you're doing is firsthand, and have overcome the lies that so many people are being pulled into. But here in Ohio, we have an issue one coming up on election day in November. So just a matter of a couple weeks away, in which the issue one is in regards to abortion and some other things in regards to children and transgender. So we want a vote of no on issue
Yes.
one here in Ohio. It is very, very key for life and for children and for righteousness in general. Just want to make that point. So Myra, how else? I had mentioned
And
your email. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, and I would like to add something about your issue one, right?
Yes.
People don't understand the seriousness. I mean, people are only starting to hear the transition in now. Planned Parenthood's been doing since 2004 in San Francisco. I
Hmm.
got it on my desk on 2007. This is what people don't understand is that the schools allowing children to leave the facility. I have testimonies of mothers that lost their daughters on abortion when they thought they dropped them up in middle school, all safe, and all of a sudden get a phone call, your daughter's bleeding because the abortion went wrong, right?
Mm.
A 13-year-old had a hysterectomy because they let her out of school in California, had an abortion, right? But having kids under puberty blockers, right? I just testified at Murrieta's school board meeting about the parental rights and allowing children to leave for medical reasons without their permission. We actually won, and we're able to put in the policy that they're not going to allow them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but part of it is those kids get into puberty blockers, and who's there when they get sick, when they develop cancer, when they're gonna need some sort of treatment the rest of their life? Their parents are the only ones there. Planned Parenthood won't be there.
Mm-hmm.
That facility that helped them without a psychological evaluation, psychiatry evaluation, right? Because look at that. You skip all the process that they used to have before, right? So, but if you read on that legislation, it's the removing all the regularities on them. Cases like mine won't even make it to court, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then you can't even sue the abortionist for malpractice. It is no longer. I mean, a non-licensed person can actually do an abortion. I can move to Ohio and start doing abortion just based on my experience. Can you imagine? This is not about people.
Mm-hmm.
It has never been about people's rights. It has never been about transgender rights. It's not about people care.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what I was going to point out too, when you were talking about the doctor who seemed to not care about leaving and it's sad to say and sick to say, the baby's head inside the mother. Obviously, that's extremely dangerous to leave a part inside of the woman. If something like that behavior had happened in any other kind of surgery or medical device or medical procedure, that is a very, very, very serious thing. A hospital could be fined. Doctors could be have their licenses taken away. There could be very serious repercussions if, for example, a doctor was negligent, purposefully negligent. Say an orthopedic doctor, or you name the type of doctor. And it seems as though, and obviously in this case, that if it's an abortion, we don't care, and well, let's just move on and
Exactly.
not worry about it.
I mean,
Well,
if you find anything on your cheeseburger,
right,
they will get fined and the restaurant will get closed, right? If they
right,
find one live insect inside a restaurant, they get closed. If a truck driver is driving on the highway and their tires are worn out, that truck gets stopped,
mm-hmm.
right? Like, but in an abortion, everything goes.
Yeah,
because they get away with murder.
yeah, quite literally they do. Well, Mayra Rodriguez, again, thank you so much for your testimony, your story. Again, Mayra at myrarodriguez.org to connect with her. Also on social media, look her up, and you could find her. Definitely a great story, very inspiring, and very strong and brave to be able to change. And so, all of you young people out there, or parents that are facing all this nonsense in schools, and especially in college, but even in younger grades, this is the truth, and this is where you will hear the truth. So, Mayra Rodriguez, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. And thank all of you for listening to this episode of Fide's Podcast. Please check out all my podcasts and all the different podcast apps on YouTube, on Rumble, on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, on rightamericamedia.com, and on WHKradio/podcasts.com. So thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next time.